Welcome to Mystery in Minutes. Hold tight as we dive into Andrew Nicole's thought-provoking sci-fi thriller, In Time. The film opens with a gradual zoom out from a green screen accompanied by a voiceover that elucidates how, in the year 2169, genetic engineering has made it possible for people to halt the aging process on their 25th birthday. As a result, time has become the new form of currency, and people earn and spend it by transferring it to one another or storing it in capsules. However, only the wealthy can afford to live indefinitely, while the rest must fight to accumulate more time. The voice belongs to the protagonist, Will Salas, a blue-eyed man in his mid-20s in a bald buzz cut, cohabiting with his mother, Rachel, in Dayton, a poverty-stricken zone. Will's arm bears a ticking digital timer, displaying the time he has left. Having started when he turned 25, in this world, everyone has a timer on their forearm that exhibits the remaining time until they time out and perish instantaneously. He encounters his youthful-looking mother, who is celebrating her 50th birthday in the kitchen. They seem to be running out of time and money to pay for their rent and other expenses. Will assures his mother that he can earn more money by fighting, but she declines the offer, fearing for his life. She requests that Will meets her after work when she pays off her loan, since she won't have enough time, implying that she will be risking her life to do so. Before he departs for his job, she gives him additional time to use his lunch money. On his way to work, a young girl solicits a minute from Will to pay her bills, but he generously gives her 5 minutes instead. He encounters his colleague, friend, and habitual alcoholic, Boral, and together they utilize their time to purchase coffee. At the factory, despite Will's units being higher than the previous week, he is deceived out of his wages. He heads to the bar and meets a friend who owes him an hour before reuniting with a drunken Boral. At the bar, he approaches a wealthy, inebriated man named Henry Hamilton, who possesses an abundance of time and tries to caution him about the time thieves, the Minutemen, and their leader, Fortis. Despite his drunken stupor, Will convinces Hamilton to depart with him, while he urges Boral to leave the premises. The Minutemen give chase as the duo run for their lives and seek refuge in an abandoned storage unit where they remain undetected. While lying low, Hamilton shares his drink with Will and confides in him that he is 105 years old, filled with remorse for living too long. He exposes that the time zones were established to ensure that the affluent inhabitants of New Greenwich would become immortal by stockpiling the majority of time, while constantly raising prices to keep the less fortunate dying. When asked how he would use more time, Will declares that he would live in the moment and refrain from squandering it. Determined to bring about change in the world, the following day Hamilton relinquishes all but 5 minutes of his time to a slumbering Will and disappears. Will hurries to find him but reaches the bridge too late and watches in dismay as Hamilton dies and falls off a bridge. With his newfound wealth, Will visits his friend Boral, but the latter warns him against carrying too much time in Dayton. Will offers him a decade's worth of time, 1 year for each year of their friendship, and heads to meet his mother, intending to relocate her to New Greenwich. However, his mother runs out of time and cannot afford the escalating bus fare, and the unyielding driver compels her to chase towards Will on foot. As she sprints at her highest speed, she implores uncooperative individuals for assistance, catching a glimpse of Will from afar. Despite her efforts, she runs out of time and perishes in Will's arms. The following day, Raymond Leon, the leader of the Timekeepers, a group with police-like authority, speculates that Hamilton was killed for his time. After discovering security footage of the incident, he launches a homicide investigation. Will, now heartbroken and enraged, dons a smart suit and heads to New Greenwich, paying for each crossing over the border, pretending to be a zone member. Determined to take everything from the people of New Greenwich and avenge his mother's death, Will plans to infiltrate their society. Upon arriving, he is mesmerized by a raven-haired woman with penetrating eyes and a bob cut exiting her car with a bodyguard at her side, before checking into a luxurious hotel suite. Meanwhile, Leon reviews the security footage and assumes that Will killed Hamilton, planning to pursue him. Will indulges in a sumptuous meal at an upscale restaurant, where a waitress infers from his appearance and lavish lifestyle since arriving in the zone that he is not a member. The dark-haired woman from earlier observes him from a nearby table as he inquires about the nearby casino, The timekeepers in Leon's team confirm their suspicions about Will, who recalls his father. Upon arriving at the casino, he is required to make a voluntary contribution as a non-member before he is granted unlimited access. While engaging in a poker match with wealthy individuals, Will's lack of bodyguards surprises his opponent. Sylvia Weis, a businessman who loans time and supports the concept of Darwinian capitalism where only the wealthiest thrive, Sylvia, his daughter, the same woman Will previously encountered, joins them at the poker table and witnesses Will acquire over a millennium while nearly running out of time. Captivated by his confidence and discerning Will's apparent intention to engage with his daughter, Weis introduces him to Sylvia, who cordially invites Will to their upcoming party. He graciously accepts, purchasing a brand new convertible with his winnings and arriving in style. At the event, Weis introduces him to various members of his family, including Sylvia, who he has previously met. Later, Sylvia invites him to dance, and they slip away from the formal gathering to indulge in a liberating swim in the ocean. While Sylvia becomes apprehensive at the prospect of getting caught, Will appears to relish the freedom and spontaneity of the moment. Returning to the party, Weis inquires about Sylvia's whereabouts, but their conversation is abruptly interrupted by the sudden arrival of Leon and his team. They detain Will and take him to a room in the mansion for questioning, where Leon accuses him of killing Hamilton and seizes all but 2 hours of his time. Overhearing the exchange, Sylvia defies her father's orders to leave and instead stays to listen. As Will tries to escape, he overpowers the guards and takes Sylvia hostage at gunpoint. A high-speed car chase ensues with the timekeepers in pursuit. Fearing for her life, Sylvia pleads with Will to let her go, but he remains steadfast in his determination to survive. When Will runs out of time, he persuades Sylvia to lend him an hour, but she ultimately refuses, leading to a confrontation under a bridge where Will denies her request to go back and faces a difficult decision. Will advises Sylvia to hide her arm to avoid being killed as they head back to Dayton, but Fortis and his gang ambush them with nails to deflate their car tires, causing it to overturn. Fortis steals everything he can from Sylvia as she lies unconscious, and the Minutemen flee when they hear the timekeeper sirens. When Sylvia regains consciousness, she is devastated to discover that she only has 30 minutes left on her clock. Will generously gives her 5 of his minutes, leaving them both with the same amount of time as they continue their journey on foot. Timekeeper Leon stumbles upon their abandoned car and refills his time before deciding to wait for the duo to make a move. Will tries to recover some time from Boro, but his wife Greta tearfully informs him that he drank himself to death, shutting the door in his face. With time running out, they rush to a pawn shop and manage to get a day each by selling Sylvia's earrings. Will calls Weis from a payphone and demands 1,000 hours be wired to the timelines in Dayton as ransom for Sylvia's safe return. However, Leon feigns sympathy and warns Will not to repeat his father's mistakes, suggesting that his crime was far more dangerous than he realizes. The officers track the call to Pedro Plaza, and Weis hesitates to pay the money, thinking that it is for both of them. Will takes Sylvia back to his place for the night, where Will recounts his parents' deaths, suspecting his father was murdered, and shares his struggles with living day to day since his clock began. Sylvia, on the other hand, woke up in her luxurious bed when her time began. She believes that Will resents her for it, but his response surprises her, as he harbors no ill will towards her for being born into time. On the following day, Will readies his firearm, waking Sylvia from her slumber. They both peer out of the window that overlooks the timelines, but Weis falls to meet their expectations. Will tries to quell Sylvia by suggesting that the timekeepers must have prohibited Weis from transferring the requested time, but she firmly rejects his notion, well aware of her father's selfishness. Will realizes Sylvia and urges her to return home discreetly, but she is eager to assist him. As they hit the street, Will surrenders a firearm to Sylvia and keeps a vigilant eye as she contacts her father, who informs a fuming Sylvia that help is en route. Suddenly, Leon appears, aiming to shoot Will. Sylvia responds by shooting Leon's arm, causing him to collapse and allowing Will and Sylvia enough time to flee in his police car. As Leon remains on the ground, Will transfers some of his own time to him, hoping to keep him alive until the other officers arrive. However, the locals turn hostile, impeding Leon's progress until a fellow timekeeper intervenes. With 9 hours remaining on Sylvia's timer, they pull over to strategize and decide to make arrests. They intercept a taxi and steal a day's worth of time, a pair of earrings, and the vehicle itself from a New Greenwich resident. They watch their own faces appear on the news as fugitives, but Will is willing to take the blame for everything. Sylvia, however, refuses to let him shoulder the responsibility alone, and they share a tender moment together. Meanwhile, the board members raise concerns about Weis's management of the New Greenwich district. He assures them that everything is under control, but Leon arrives and Weiss attempts to bribe him into bringing back Sylvia. Leon rebuffs his offer and warns Weiss that he will face arrest if he aids Sylvia in any way. Will teaches Sylvia how to handle a gun, and she proposes a plan to acquire as much time as they need. They decide to rob Weiss's time banks, acquiring the time capsules they require and distributing them to those in need. Leon arrives on the scene as Will delivers time capsules to Borrell's wife, the little girl, and the timeline's proprietor. Back at the bureau, Leon receives orders to apprehend Will immediately, and he becomes anxious that Will's actions may harm the very people he seeks to assist. In an action of desperation, Fortis kills an ex-gang member during an attempt theft, resulting in the loss of an entire month's worth of time. He devises a scheme to capture Will and Sylvia to claim the 10-year time reward for their capture. Leon pursues Will and Sylvia, but they manage to escape through a neighbor's house by breaking a window. They keep running, hoping that Leon will give up like his team, but he persists in chasing them. Finally, they bribe a bus driver to take them to a hotel, where they book all the rooms, effectively evading Leon's pursuit. Fortis tracks down the people aided by Will and Sylvia and threatens them until one of them cracks under pressure and reveals their location in exchange for a slice of the pie. Fortis then launches an ambush on the couple in their hotel room, daring Will to a fight. Using his father's tactics, Will kills Fortis and the other Minutemen before Fortis' time runs out. When Leon arrives at the scene, he chides Will's actions aloud for stealing too much time and creating a mess. Will and Sylvia continue to flee, and they soon realize that despite their efforts, they haven't made a significant impact because the rich quickly raise prices to compensate for the time spent. It becomes evident that only 1 million years worth of time could hurt the wealthy. Adopting a strategic guise of surrender, the dynamic duo catches Weiss off guard, robbing his vault of a 1 million year capsule in the presence of his bodyguards. Weiss asserts that humanity's longing for immortality will perpetually thwart any chance of balance in the world, and despite his anger, Will chooses to spare his life, imprisoning him in his cabin. Leon pursues Will and Sylvia back to Dayton and orders his fellow officers to halt them from absconding with the capsule at all costs, but his efforts are in vain as the duo manage to distribute the stolen time. As the citizens of Dayton lend their support, Leon struggles to catch up with Will and Sylvia, having neglected to collect his day's wages and running out of time. When he finally catches up, he runs out of time just as he attempts to apprehend them. With their own time quickly depleted, Will races to retrieve Leon's time from the timekeeper's vehicle and returns to Sylvia, and they narrowly avoid timing out. Television broadcasts reveal that Dayton's factories have ceased operation as everyone now has enough time to abandon their jobs and relocate to more affluent areas. Jaeger, having witnessed the effects of his obsession with the duo, orders the timekeepers to return home. Will and Sylvia progress to larger banks, still trying to crash the unfair system as fugitives at large. Enjoyed this gripping video? Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more.